So good evening, welcome. Compassion Week, it's almost like without changing anything, compassion is very absolutely central and foundational, particularly to the Mahayana traditions of Buddhism, Mahayana tradition that we practice here, Buddhism of Tibet, China, Mongolia, Japan, Vietnam, Korea. Compassion is absolutely central, and explicitly so. And so we always begin, actually, the way we'll begin tonight, the four boundless thoughts, which are also often referred to as the four immeasurables. If you were to Google the four immeasurables, you would find information. These are important. They were important in India before the time of the Buddha, actually, and they are also important in early Buddhism of India, Theravada Buddhism. They are present in Mahayana Buddhism, and they really consolidate a lot of how we think about compassion and the different aspects of compassion that we cultivate. We cultivate a wish that everyone, when we use compassion, we use it sometimes, as I just did now, in a very general sort of sense. Maybe compassion with a capital C, because it encompasses many things. It actually has, when we cultivate this, the attitude that we cultivate for all living beings, all life whatsoever, we see that it has these nuances. There's specifically the wish that everyone have happiness and the causes of happiness, which in Buddhism, through its understanding of karma, means that we create the causes of our own happiness by acting well. And acting well ethically fundamentally means not harming others, and if we can, helping. So right there you have also cultivation of compassion as a cause of happiness. We wish that beings be free of pain and the causes of pain. We wish that everyone have both the opportunity to be free of pain and to live happily. So when we cultivate a different kind of sensibility towards others, it has these nuances. So we can really, in meditation, for example, and we'll do this a little bit this evening, really focus on the wish that everyone, that myself and everyone, be free of pain, and also be free of the causes of pain, that we have happiness, that everyone be without pain, live happily, and that this last one might be less clear than the others. May no beings ever cling to those near, nor spurn those far, because fundamentally what we're doing when we cultivate these aspects of love and compassion is we're seeking to cultivate this toward everyone. So actually we begin with the cultivation of even mindedness or equanimity. And equanimity means that we care about everyone equally. We don't see some people as very close and we all kind of want to huddle with them and run away with them from the rest of the world. And then other people, we don't even want to look at them, much less be concerned with their suffering. So that's what this means. May nobody be like that. May I not be like that. May all of us have this, open-hearted state that we can actually live in and cultivate. So we always begin by singing this, and then we sing also this next line, which is very famous. Shanti Devi, 8th century Buddhist poet, philosopher, really one of the great figures of Indian Buddhism, and he expresses the aspiration that we are cultivating by saying fundamentally that for as long as anyone exists, as long as space abides, I want to be here. I want to be here as a resource for all beings. Considered a very unusual thought and a very important thought, and really the heart center of the motivation that is cultivated in Buddhism. So we'll sing that together. May all beings always have happiness and its causes. May all beings always be free of pain and its causes. May all beings always be pain-free and live happily. May no beings ever cling to those near nor spurn those far. For as long as space abides, as long as the world remains, just so long may I be there, resolving all beings' pain. Just take a minute to just kind of settle. Relax. Let go of whatever concerns you might have about something that happened earlier today. Not going to do anything about that now. Or something that you need to take care of tonight or tomorrow. Not now will you be thinking about that. So we intentionally create a kind of protected space for ourselves where we can be here and in this moment. Relaxed, comfortable. Relaxation is the first prerequisite of an open heart. We have to be relaxed, present in our hearts more than our heads. Feeling the nourishment of your own breath coming in, the relaxation of letting it go. We just sit here together for 3 breaths, just being present to your own experience of your own breathing. Take a moment to consider how profoundly important kindness is. Really, our lives depend on it. Absolutely. Cannot survive without kindness. We wouldn't have survived childhood without someone taking care of us. We wouldn't survive life either if there wasn't some basic trust. You could walk into a room like this and feel that you'll be treated well, you'll treat others well. And how destructive lack of kindness, hatred is. It's really destructive. It's destructive in a personal way, family and friends. It's profoundly destructive at the level of world governance, countries, races, classes, hating each other, destroying each other. So furthering compassion is the most positive thing that we can do for our own lives and for the well-being of those we care about and for the well-being, really, of the world itself. And one way to orient ourselves toward the cultivation of compassion is to take some time to reflect on how important it is. And to, in seeing that, make a commitment. I'm going to dedicate myself to furthering real kindness, real concern for others' happiness and suffering. In an ongoing way. I recognize that though I admire compassion greatly, and I even surely express it in my life, it could be so much greater, a majesty in my own heart. So I understand that the cultivation of deep, open-hearted caring is a process. I'm fortunate enough to consider it an important process, fortunate enough to care about it enough to take time of an evening and see what I can do about furthering compassion. And certainly one way to further compassion and to further my own sense of commitment to revisit this as an issue of my own development on a daily basis, so that 5 years from now I can look back and, well, yes, my heart's opened a little bit more. So we have to understand that we don't transform overnight, but we do transform. It takes continued care and attention. So we know very well how much we don't want to suffer. Everybody knows that. When you have a headache, your first wish is that it's gone, that it be gone. And I invite you to, as we're doing this meditation, reflections together, that you take this opportunity to really be in touch with your actual experience. Harvey will say something about the importance of that shortly. Think of a moment when you had a terrible headache, or you banged into something and you really hurt your shin, your arm, or you had the flu, and how miserable you are at that time. We all know that. As people who are interested in cultivating compassion, we see this as an opportunity to recognize and deeply understand through our own experience what other people feel when they're in pain. Or when you're hungry. You just get up and go to the refrigerator. It's full. Don't know what to choose. You're hungry. You really want to eat something. There are millions of people around the world, thousands of them right here in Houston, who can't do that. They feel exactly as hungry as you feel. And they can't relieve their hunger. And develop a wish that they could. It has to start at the level of interest and concern and motivation. Because you're making a connection between your own hunger and then your fortune in eating. But your mind isn't just collapsed down around this hungry moment and grabbing of a piece of bread. You're using your experience to tap into experiences that everybody has. The Buddha famously said that he thought about all the different people, the many beings throughout space. He said, he was actually quoting one of his students who had told him this same thing. We can all notice that when we think of all the beings in the world, everybody we know, when we get right down to it, we may find that there's nobody as dear to us as ourselves. And that is a place of tremendous recognition. It's not an understanding to be shrugged off as inferior. Everyone, Buddha said, when I think of all the beings in the world, I realize that no one is more dear to me than I am to myself. And then, through that, I recognize just how dear and precious everyone holds their own experience. So this sense that we have of self and other being so very, very different, which is the fundamental obstacle, really, to our having all-encompassing love and compassion all the time, can be bridged by our reflecting that our own experience, our own selfish experience, can tell us how profoundly everyone we see wants to be free of suffering and its causes, wants to have happiness and its causes. So we can think about open-heartedness in this way, using your cognitive capacity, thinking, reflecting on your own experience as you reach for bread and, oh, yeah, oh, but there are people not 5 miles away from me probably, never mind all around the globe. They feel the same hunger. And their eating is just as important to them as mine is to me, and I can see how important that is. And use that as a way to enhance a sense of connection with other people. This is talked about a lot in Buddhist texts. Shanti Devi is one of the main sources for this. And then, so this is what we call in meditation a phase of doing some reflection. So you're thinking, remembering things that you've read, remembering your own experience, kind of holding it together. And then you may find as you reflect on this that in some mysterious way it goes deeper in you, it opens a window in you, and you really feel, oh, I've been wrong. I've been so wrong for so much of my life that I didn't make this connection. I didn't examine the sense of difference and separateness I feel between myself and others, and I just naturally feel that my feelings are more important than anybody else's because I can feel them. But I'm starting to see that this is completely erroneous. May I further this understanding? Aspiration is very important in cultivating any quality of love and compassion, to really aspire. Oh, I would like to be a person who is like that. Because I know how it, now changing the topic a little bit, I know how it feels when somebody is kind to me, pays attention to me, listens to me when I speak, looks me in the eye, notices me, makes me feel alive. I would like to be that for everyone. I'm not now. I have my limitations. I can't help it. But I aspire, I commit to, on a daily basis, on a regular basis, just take a moment to consider these things and orient myself toward cultivation of open-hearted sense of connection with everyone. And you can just rest in that a little bit. Let it digest in your own way. If anything struck you of the different things that were said, make a note of that. Make an aspiration for yourself. Think of the example of people who inspire you with their kindness, their openness, their acceptance of everyone. Maybe famous religious figures or great-hearted people that you know in your life. It's wonderful to be inspired by other people. Bringing them to mind really makes us feel more courageous. Yeah, I could be a little more like that. I could. So these are some considerations in developing open-hearted kindness. And Harvey has some others.
I think all of the major religious traditions spend a lot of time advocating compassion between individuals, love between individuals, and it's not always clear how you can do that. One of the strong elements of Buddhism is that it does make some suggestions as to pathways for encouraging that kind of quality. And for us in the West, not everybody, but many of us have grown up, for whatever reason, feeling that our feelings are a bit dangerous or not okay. And we may try to push our feelings out of our experience or not feel them. And it may have been an important skill that we had developed when we were children. If parents were out of control or demanded silence, or you tried to dance on the table and your mom whacked you for your exuberance, you may have learned that it wasn't too cool to have your own feelings. Maybe your mother was depressed and needed you to take care of her, or you had an alcoholic parent, and there's a lot of writing about growing up in an alcoholic family where the rules of the game are you don't see, you don't feel, and you don't talk. Maybe you were lucky and you didn't experience any of that, but many of us know what it was like to grow up in families where you kept your peace, and part of keeping your peace was probably not feeling too much. So when we enter a spiritual path, there's a lot of talk about compassion. Sometimes it might feel a little challenging. Maybe it's easy on some occasions, but maybe sometimes we feel a little bit of analgesia, kind of numb. And so really part of what may be very, very useful in cultivating compassion is first really allowing ourselves to know some of our own pains and difficulties, and that may or may not be that easy. It may take quite a bit of effort to even notice how we run away from our own feelings. Sometimes we use alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes, prayer, over-religiosity, workaholism, pets, knitting. The list goes on and on. Gambling, how people might avoid painful feelings in their lives. Just walk down the aisle on the plane and see how the plane crew wants to narcotize everyone, so nobody's a bother, and we use television and media to keep our culture pretty well narcotized. It's kind of a large-scale issue nowadays. So learning what we actually feel and allowing ourselves to feel our feelings is in a way, it's a big step in our spiritual development. So there's a set of practices in Tibetan Buddhism called Tonglen, somewhat famous. In English, we would probably say taking and sending. In Tibetan, the words are reversed, but Tonglen is taking and sending. And it refers to really an aspiration to take up the difficulties of all others and the wish to imbue everyone with happiness and satisfaction. It is pretty much ensconced in the Buddhist worldview, which includes a belief in rebirth, and within that belief in rebirth, the belief that since there is this infinite past that we've all experienced together, that due to the law of averages, every one of you sitting in this room would have been at least a close parenting relative in some past life, and we have a kind of a debt of gratitude to our parents. And so there's a feeling of emphasizing the relatedness of beings. And there are a lot of meditations in Buddhism to contemplate the relatedness of beings, but one of the main ones is around how beings have been our kind mothers. Now, this doesn't always play that well in the West, because not everybody in the West has had a kind mother, unfortunately, or a kind father. But maybe there are some parenting beings that you've seen in your life, whether it be birds feeding their young, or a dog feeding its young, or squirrel, or tiger. I don't know what you've seen. But hopefully we've all seen at least some instance of maternal love that's quite touching. And so there are ways of using that worldview to enhance the sense of connectedness with others. As I say, there are many. But when we're cultivating compassion, and really almost all of us have an opportunity to run into bad hair experiences almost every day of our lives. I think most of us, at least one time during the day, feel like it's a bad hair day. So that's wonderful. First thing in terms of practice is, can we actually allow ourselves to feel our discomfort instead of immediately ameliorating it with something, whether it be an aspirin or a book or a conversation or a piece of TV or a little bit of marijuana or a cigarette or alcohol, or even immediately praying. Can we feel our own discomfort? Can we be mindful when we're feeling our own discomfort? A lot of us, when we start feeling discomfort, we immediately are just thinking, how can I get away from this? What can I do? Where can I go? As Anne was saying, even hunger. I can't wait till I get home and have that bagel. Well, can you feel that bagel hunger? Where do you feel it? How do you know you're hungry? Important question. Where do you feel that discomfort? Can you allow yourself to feel what it's like to feel hungry? Many of us can't. I mean, this is not that strange. Many of us can't. But if you happen to feel it in your tummy and you feel like, my stomach is really hungry, okay, can you feel that? And can you use that, if you want, as an opportunity for developing a really large mind? And may this feeling of hunger that I have, just as a first stage, contain the feeling of hunger of all beings, just my own hunger. With training, we might expand it ultimately to just take on all the pain and all the discomfort of all sentient beings. But we can just start with, I've got this kind of discomfort. Scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 4. I'm a bit hungry. Not really comfortable with it. May that include that feeling itself, just feeling into it. Include, you can start with just all the discomfort of hunger of all sentient beings. May mine contain everyone's. It's such a large, expansive reorientation of our mind and our experience. If you wanted to just have one practice of Buddhist practice, that would be a great practice. It even goes so far, this particular teaching, really, at least my interpretation of it is, I think I'd like to rob a bank today. I have this definite anticipation of wanting to rob a bank. This is my own kind of, but part of me realizes this is a kind of an afflicted state of mind. Can this wish of mine to rob a bank, can I take on all the afflicted states of all beings who ever want to rob banks? May mine contain everybody's. It's wonderful. If you can do that as you're anticipating robbing a bank, you've got some little corner of your mind that's not totally absorbed in robbing a bank. Or I'm going to go sexually act out, or I'm going to go to the bar, or I'm going to go to Las Vegas. Oh, I just can't wait till I can bet on the horses tonight. We've all got our things. I don't have to know it. But you know what your thing is. Chocolate, you know. So I'm dreaming of chocolate. Some little corner of the mind. Before I go for it, may I contain that chocolate hunger of all sentient beings. Because part of it is kind of not comfortable. There's a kind of, there might be some excitement in it, but there's also some unrest. But again, we're practicing, ultimately we're not going to keep it that specific, where it's, whatever my chocolate desire, discomfort is, my chocolate discomfort, may it contain the discomfort of all sentient beings. But we're just starting with baby steps. May my chocolate discomfort, just as it is, contain everybody's chocolate discomfort. Their desire for chocolate. Ants want chocolate. What does that little ant feel like when it wants chocolate? Probably as consumed by it as I am. But when you do it enough, you start noticing that there's some afterglow. There's some subtle impression on your state. Maybe later in the day, maybe very soon, of, there's something larger about my mind. A further enhancement of the practice I'll do through a guided meditation. So just adopt a kind of comfortable position. And you just start by taking a few breaths that can bring you into the present. We'll do this in sort of comfortable stages. So, other people have discomforts. And we have maybe in ourselves a bit of a kind of indifference to others. So we're going to start just with maybe this indifference to others, a kind of sense of distance from others. Other people's discomfort, disturbance, there's a little bit of a destructive quality to discomfort and disturbance. We're going to allow that sense of discomfort and disturbance. We're just going to imagine inhaling that all and allow it to dissolve a sense of indifference that we might have towards others, a sense of distance towards others. So we're just going to practice a few breaths of taking in others' disturbance, discomfort, some destructive quality that is afflicting others. But what it's going to do is going to afflict our sense of indifference to others and see if we can maybe perforate it or even dissolve our sense of indifference. So just imagine the discomforts everywhere in the world and imagine inhaling the dissolving capacity of discomfort, the dissolving quality of discomfort. And that dissolves a sense of indifference and distance to others. You're removing others' discomfort, the dissolving quality of discomfort, the destructive quality of discomfort. And it's coming in and dissolving a sense of indifference and distance from others. And if there's some quality of even a bit of openness or spaciousness or largeness to your mind, you still may have thoughts. It's okay. It doesn't matter if you have thoughts or images going through your mind. But maybe there's just a little bit of lightening or spacening or opening. Maybe just imagine that quality as a quality of luminosity or luminescence. And with breathing out, you breathe out happiness and joy and healing to all beings. When you breathe out, just breathe out some light and joy and healing. And then one further step in the process would be on the inhale, breathe in the dissolving, destructive, painful qualities that others are experiencing and allow those to afflict your sense of indifference and distance and work on dissolving that. But then on the very next breath, there's a little spaciousness. Breathe out some luminosity, love, and healing. So we breathe in the dissolving, destructive, afflictive, allow for a little bit of spacening of the mind, opening of the mind, lightening of the mind, brightening of the mind. We breathe out joy and healing and light and lightening, opening. And so let's do maybe 5 or 10 breaths in that way. Breathing in the difficulties, dissolving any sense of indifference and distance. Breathing out joy and kindness, care, light. Breathing in dark, difficult, dissolving experiences. Dissolving indifference and distance. Feeling whatever is space or opening, and sending out light and joy and care. And just see how you are now, however you are. And can you just be with yourself? Your mind racing, your mind is racing. Your mind is quiet, your mind is quiet. Your mind is pained, your mind is pained. Whatever it is, what's going on in your body. Maybe there's been some effect of this practice. Just take a minute or two, and just like maybe, you had a little spiritual snack. How does a spiritual snack sitting with you in your body, in your emotions, how are you affected? What are you taking away in your experience? What do you experience right now that's affecting you? What will you walk out with in terms of your body experience and your mind? Just allow yourself to register how you are right now, just for a minute or two. Be kind and present with yourself. Okay, welcome back to the room. If there are any questions or comments or observations, we're open. If not, we can do the book in the closing.
Yeah.
What you want to do.
Mm.
Where's the book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do you want to do the book in the closing meditation?
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Is that okay? I'm trying to think if I want to say anything else or not. Mm-hmm.
How do you want to organize it?
Okay. No comments? No questions? No reports on how this went for you? You fell asleep. You started thinking about chocolate. You feel more spacious or not, more anxious. No? Okay. Would you mind waiting till we can get you the microphone?
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Oh, there you go. Yes. Works? Yes.
Try it. Can't tell yet.
1, 2, 3. Yours?
It's
Light
working.
on it, so I think it's working now. More than anything, I think it's more of a reflection.
Can you make it a little
Can you
louder
hold
in
it?
this
Hold it
room?
like this.
Closer. Should be working, right?
Yeah.
Be closer. There you go.
Yeah. Good.
I'm not a good
That's good.
singer.
You got it.
It's more of a reflection in the sense that through the practical compassion mixed with our Western background in our daily life, we're most likely going to be exposed to weakness. I mean, we're going to be perceived as weak. And I think inside of us, at least of myself, what I see is a background of maybe due to the daily lives or work or education, who knows, culture in general. One of the biggest challenges that we have is to let go that or somehow recycle that weaknesses that one is in Western terms generated by being as compassionate as you could be. Because you need to let go a lot of things. I mean, you're going to be compassionate, you're going to be compassionate no matter what. Shouldn't be conditional to how others behave. And most likely, people are going to take advantage of that. Some people are going to be positive to it. So I think it's in my view, one of the biggest challenges for compassion is probably starting the motivation. I mean, starting the wheel is not as hard as keeping it turning. Once you see that some people could start taking advantage of it, or you're going to lose in a Western interpretation of things. Although you need to turn that into a gain.
Yeah, so it's a big topic that you're actually opening up. But I like to remember the quote that somebody quoted to me. There was a Theravada teacher in Bodh Gaya in India, and he's quoted as saying, practice is meant to make you simple, but not a simpleton. And I think one of the reasons why it's good to see Buddhist teachers is that compassion, especially Tibetan version, is not cotton candy, and almost au contraire. It's pretty tough. So even we'll talk about ferocious compassion. So I think as I say, it's a kind of a big issue because our image of compassion is of self-sacrifice to an extreme, and certainly within Buddhism itself, there is those images exist as well. A lot of them, literally self-sacrifice. But there's also sort of the countervailing teaching of you should never give away, for example, something you can't really part with. And it's clearly not a true story, but there's a story of a demon who goes to challenge one of Buddha's chief disciples, I think it's Shariputra, supposedly, and says, I need an arm, my arm's fallen off, and please give me your arm. And Shariputra gives him his arm, and then it's sort of like, well, I really didn't need your arm. And then Shariputra gets angry, and it's like, oh boy, is this a mess spiritually? It's really terrible, because he gets angry, and it's like, that's the big no-no. If you can't really clean break, goodbye. If you've got all sorts of internal causes and conditions about how your arm should be used once you gave it away, it's not a clean gift. So there's a lot to think about, in fact, in terms of what compassion means. And, it gets down to, in the West, it's sort of like, is it the goose or is it the egg? Do you try to get somebody a goose or do you keep giving them eggs? What is compassion, really? Is it giving somebody bread or teaching them how to either make bread or earn bread? So it's always balanced in the Buddhist ultimate situation with wisdom, and which hopefully then prevents the excesses that might occur if one wasn't wise in one's compassionate activity. But it's a wonderful topic to think about and talk about. What does it mean to be compassionate, and what does it mean to be vulnerable, and what does it mean to take care of yourself in appropriate ways? So, I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to look at what is actually meant by this word compassion in the context that we're talking about, because I think you're right, there is a strong association in Western culture with weakness, and there's underneath that seems to be a sense that what compassion means is doing what other people want you to do, and then they'll take advantage of you, which of course they would. But for example, in these 4 lines that we chanted, there's nothing there in doing what people want you to do, because often what they want you to do is actually not helpful, let's say, to them. Then the no, there's a big no. It's wishing that people have happiness, wishing that people be free of suffering. There's nothing in there about codependent living, that I have to take care of everybody, even if they're quite capable of taking care of themselves. Or at least I am not meant to do that beyond my capacity. That's the meaning of the story, right? Don't cut your arm off. Don't work from morning till night. So there has to be some wisdom there. On the other hand, this is something that Lama Willem Miller writes about. If you are cultivating this sense of, exuding wishes for happiness for everyone, implicitly underneath that, you are feeling that you have something to offer, that you have a strength, you have a richness, you have an ocean in you that you can share. I mean, that's part of the developmental process of cultivating compassion. Not that we, these tiny people, have to work really hard at everyone's beck and call. That's kind of not the image. It's more like, the majesty of having much to offer, a lot of heart to offer. And Matthew Ricard points out also that our very word for courage, which really compassion takes courage, everything we've described, it takes a kind of courage, to see your own suffering, to allow other people's pain to actually penetrate, our shield. It takes a kind of courage, which of course goes back to the French and Latin cur, heart. It's a heartiness of living. It's not some sort of, so there's really a lot of strength in it. And so sometimes a distinction is made between feeling everyone's pain, which will be depleting ultimately, and wanting them to be free of it, just sort of coming in with this, may you be free of it, may you have happiness. It's kind of a different slant. So thinking about what compassion actually is, what love and compassion actually are, and actually how you feel when you cultivate them, because I don't know that there will be a sense of weakness there. Doing whatever everybody seems to want you to do, then definitely, that's a problem. But, to ask if that's actually what we're cultivating here when we're talking about this thing that we use this English word compassion, which has so many meanings, but specifically it's wanting others to be happy, So there's a lot to reflect on there. Thank you for bringing it up. Okay. So
Elizabeth, can you do the candle?
I want to do one short thing before.
You want to do something before that?
One short thing is, sometimes, as you can see, when we cultivate compassion, we use our minds. There's a cognitive thing that we did already earlier. We use our imagination, as we did, imagining, that we were drawing in other people's suffering, sending out good wishes to everyone. We use our imagination. We also use our bodies. We feeling our breath. And so I'll just do one kind of slight variation on that for a few minutes, and then we'll light our candle, and then we'll do our closing. So you just take another moment. So one of the ways in which compassion can seem weakening as you raise is if we ourselves are not full in some way. So a way to feel full. If you breathe in, gratitude is a very filling, joyous, kind of rich kind of feeling. So, and breathing down like from space, because there's so much space, there's so much possibility to inhale from space, you can feel like you're inhaling gratitude. You're just filled with however you experience gratitude as, maybe almost kind of like golden feathers or something, throughout your body, or whatever it is that you experience. Inhale, and then you're feeling good because you're feeling grateful for the bread you have in your refrigerator, for whatever specific blessings you have in your life. And then exhale like it's coming straight out of your heart. So you inhale, just your normal way of inhaling, but feeling that you're drawing through your crown, you're drawing in maybe this golden feeling of gratitude. And then when you exhale, sending straight out from your heart these loving feelings out into the world for everyone to enjoy. Sharon Salzberg says when she walks through New York City, she just breathes out loving kindness to everyone. You can do it as a walking meditation. So we'll just do a few breaths like that. And then we'll light our candle. Kind of fill the room with your good wishes for yourself, in the future, and for everyone here. And with exactly that feeling, we sing our blessing as the candle is lit. With all of you in mind, we light this lamp of clarity. May the glow of love, wisdom shine within us, everyone, till we all rise forth born in one enlightened mandala.
And of course, we send our wishes to all beings, and in particular tonight, David and Ali, Robert and his mom, Rebecca, Aaron, and Darcy, Hall, Nadia, and Ellie, Carlos V, Sharon Fowler, Courtney, Sophia, Otto, Miguel, Bardo, Rosario, Bardo, Sylvia Bardo, my father, Oscar, Emma, Ralph, Marla, and Tracy, Sean, Karen, Janet Satterfield, Lisa Martin, Brian Wood, Doug and family, Anne and Janine for marriage, Renee and family, Eric and Phil, Kim, Carl and Lynn, Jennifer, Kevin, Mrs. Flores, Luke, Laura, Kristen, Alexis, George, Helen, Andrea, Rebecca and Sophia, Snickers, Percy, Italo, Silo and Bardo, David Snellgrove, Conti, Lori Ludwig, Gloria in retreat, Max and Michelle Panzer,
Kate and Kathy Carr and Pat Macon. And letting all those good feelings gather in your heart. We'll sound an ah, a single ah, sending out sound, and if you like, light, feeling that your mind is completely unified with the sound and light. And it goes out to everyone right now, everyone in this room, everyone throughout space. Mind can encompass all of space just like that. And it goes out into the future as well. Your future, everyone's future. Thank you, everyone. We'd be most pleased if you took some of what you heard tonight into your pocket or mind, heart, and just cultivate it, even if it's just, one snippet of the medley that we did this evening. It's really nothing more important. So